first off, for people who aren't familiar with BAMMA, and maybe not familiar with you, you're on the ultimate side of the Smashes. For people that are listening to this interview, you have to know, I'm not going to ruin it for you, but you need to go look up Colin Freak Show Fletcher, and you need to see what he comes out into the cage in. And Colin, I just have to ask, where does that come from? Because that might be one of the craziest entrances I've seen in MMA.
Well, to be honest, you haven't seen anything yet. I'm always planning a bigger and better entrance every time. The only thing that holds us back is my budget. To be honest with you, I'm just I suppose I'm a bit of a weirdo. You know what I mean? I like to do silly things to get people's attention. With me fighting and with me preparations towards fights and things like that. I just get bored very easily, I suppose.
I think you and I would get along just fine because I don't like doing the same thing over and over either.
Yeah, it gets very repetitive, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I read something interesting. McClure, I think it's BAMMA, he said it's great to become a world champion, but it's his first international belt. But then I also remember he called you out. Am I correct?
He did, yeah. I found that very strange. He kind of took offence to me finding that strange because I kind of said, oh, well, it's an honour to be called out by a champion. I haven't heard of that before. It's normally the other way around, where the challenger calls out the champion. And he was kind of saying, no, champions call people out all the time. And I kind of just took it as he wants to get a bit of publicity from kind of fighting me because I've got a little bit more publicity than him, maybe. But either way, be careful what you wish for, really, I think, is the motto that a lot of people have learned.
So has that motivated you? Do you feel like, I know some people say that, when they're training, like a couple of my MMA friends said, if someone says something before a fight, in the middle of training, it just like pops in their head and motivates them. Have you had that happen yet?
I think I'm a bit of like I said before, I'm a bit of a strange person, so that's not really, it doesn't really pop into my head. But I do kind of, I kill myself in the gym. I kind of train against myself, really. I train more against myself than what I do things that he's mentioned popping into my head. I'm trying to be the best kind of person I can be. So I break myself, my own limits. I don't kind of look at his game set and try and match it or do something for it. I try to break myself physically and mentally all the time so that I'm prepared for any eventuality, really, I think is the way I look at things, fighting-wise.
Well, for people who haven't seen you fight, I will describe it as watching a tank roll over cars. The one I'm thinking of is Tim Newman, I think, is the fight. And I swear to you, it was like you just kept walking forward. No matter what he did, you just kept walking forward.
Cool.
Knocked him down, just kicked the crap out of him. I mean, you have no fear in the cage. Absolutely none.
That's kind of... I think it's kind of preparation is the key to that. You know what I mean? A lot of people said you were in his guard and I was just throwing elbows down and he was going for submissions from them. And I kind of said, well, I've worked on all of my submission defenses in the gym, you know what I mean? So that gives us the confidence to just like kind of go for it a little bit, you know what I mean? Because it's an entertainment industry, you know what I mean? I think we're there to entertain people. Foremost, this wrestle win out thing's getting a little bit tedious, you know what I mean? So I'm in this sport because I love it, you know what I mean? I love watching it, and I hope it can evolve into something more, you know what I mean? And I want to just put my little stamp on it and say this is the way I want to do my things. If you enjoy it, by all means buy a ticket and watch. If you don't enjoy it, by all means go on a forum and slag us off and tell everybody how much you hate us.
Well, just speaking of the way that you fight and the way you just move forward, I honestly believe if you just watching your fights, okay, I mean, I have, your ground game is no joke, and I know that you're a prominent striker. I mean, you just brutalize people, but would you eat? Because I just talking to you, it sounds like you wouldn't even. You'd be like, I'd rather get knocked out and put on an enentertaining fight than take somebody down and lay on them.
Totally.
Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, totally. I think that was me biggest downfall in me two UFC kind of fights that I had. Were that was what broke us mentally, you know what I mean, with those, because I didn't give a true reflection of myself for for completely different reasons. In both, I physically or mentally couldn't push the kind of, I didn't have fights, and I kind of went away from those fights thinking I didn't fight, you know what I mean, for one reason or another, and that kind of made us have to look at myself and decide whether I did want to be a fighter. And then when I got kind of asked to fight on BAMMA, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to give this one more go and see how things feel, I kind of realised that those outside factors weren't as much, they were in my head than they were there, you know what I mean, because I felt completely normal again when I came back to fight.
Yes.
For BAMMA, I felt like, this is how it normally feels. This is exactly what I'm used to doing, you know what I mean. Those other things and the outside factors kind of boiled us down into not performing like me, you know what I mean. So I was just happy to get back and fighting the way I like to, you know what I mean, and happy that I can still put on that kind of performance and show. And like I said, whether I'd won or lost that fight with Tim, I would have happily walked away from that and said, yeah, I'm a fighter again. This is me. I love this sport. I'm an MMA fighter, not necessarily a UFC fighter.
Right. I mean, the UFC mentality now is just do enough. It's just not to lose. It's not to win for some people, but it's not to lose.
Yeah. Yeah.
And every one of your fights, you go for the finish, and that's why I was telling Jimmy Wallhead, I said, you know, your style, because he was talking about the same thing. You know, you go for a finish. I said, well, Colin's the same way. Your style fits BAMMA. Your style fits European fans. I think they demand more action. Where in the United States, we just are okay with the one guy laying on each other for 5 minutes. I don't know.
Yeah, but to be fair, I don't think you see as much of that from the guys from the States fighting each other from the States. I think it makes a big difference to like kind of when we get flown over there to fight guys from the States. I don't think people see what goes on behind the scenes, you know what I mean. With my last fight that I went to Canada to fight, I kind of flew there on the Wednesday daytime, got there like late Wednesday night, cut some weight, had a bit of a chew on, and I was just physically sick from weighing in to fighting. And I can remember in the back end warming up, and I'm thinking, I'm going to lose this fight. I can't physically perform to the abilities I know I could have back home, you know what I mean. So I think those outside factors can play like a massive part in what people see, because people just see the finished article, you know what I mean. They see two guys fighting, one of them wins, one of them like kind of looks rubbish, and people will say, oh, you didn't look yourself. And I say, well, to be totally honest with you, I didn't feel myself. But then that seems like an excuse from an outside point of view, but it's just the way it is, you know what I mean. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't take it back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think a lot of people understand that you are drained from cutting weight or anything. That feeling of helplessness. There's you can't
people don't
just drink Gatorade.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't just drink Gatorade and be perfect.
There is no quick fix, you know what I mean. Especially when like jet lag and things like that are involved and stuff as well. You know what I mean. Your body's, you're just a human at the end of the day, and you've got to deal with what's happening with it. You know what I mean. It's very difficult sometimes.
You know, I loved your interview. Like I was watching. I think it's after the Tim Newman fight, you were getting interviewed by Frank Trigg, and you expect this wild man, you know, tattoos and clown, and you were very respectful. And I had a friend of mine who we actually watched this, and he said he was like, man, that's not what I expected. I mean, I'm a good guy, you know what I mean. I'm a genuine person. I just like to have a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, you know what I mean. I have a lot of fun with it. But like you see, I'm a person. I'm not just an MMA fighter. I'm a family man. I'm an idiot. I'm a good friend. You know what I mean. I'm all sorts of different people at different times. You know what I mean. I've got different. I've got so many split personalities. I don't know what to do with myself sometimes. No, but it's like you see, it's your life. You know what I mean. MMA is just a small part of that. And I like to do something a little bit different. You know what I mean, just to kind of give people something back. I think that's the only way you should be, and I wish more fighters would take that on. Well, tell me if I was to say to one of my friends, you know, hey, why should you watch BAMMA? I know this is a loaded question, and it's not to just to promote the organization, but what is the difference between BAMMA and a lot of the other organizations out there from what you've experienced?
From what I've experienced, you know what I mean, BAMMA, they put on a very, very tight show, you know what I mean? You see some brutal fights, you know what I mean? You see some very, very well-matched fights where people are putting their hearts on the line to fight, you know what I mean? They're not just, like you see, after the win, they're kind of hungry. I think a lot of guys, myself, I'm not included in this, but I think a lot of guys are hunting to become UFC fighters, and they see that as like a kind of a platform that's just below it. So sometimes you get better fights on shows that, like, they get a lot of publicity, you know what I mean? So I think people think if I fight on this show and I do well on this show, I'm going to go on to bigger things, which makes them hungrier to fight on those shows, you know what I mean? And BAMMA's one of those shows. It's like it's a big recognized show that can get you out there and let a lot of people see you, you know what I mean? And a lot of the guys on there are very, very experienced and very, very tough, you know what I mean? And get some very, very good fights. And, that being said, from my point of view, obviously I've been to the UFC, and I personally don't think they would have me back, you know what I mean? I didn't think they got my I'm sure they thought I was kind of a bit a bit too strange for them, you know what I mean? Because they put a hold on a lot of things I did, but you know.
Well, I have one more question for you. We can expect, I'm guessing we can expect the same Colin Fletcher, who's going to go straight forward, you know, win or lose, he's going to be swinging away. Yeah,
we're going to have a fight, me and Mansour. I think Mansour's a fantastic fight. I take my hat off to him, you know what I mean? In his fighting style, he's exactly the same. He marches out, he tries and guns you down, and we're going to have a fight, you know what I mean? We're not going to have a it's not going to be one of those chess matches. It's going to be rough. It's going to be tough. And anything could happen, you know what I mean? It's MMA, and that's what you've got to love about it, because two guys are going to go in there, and we're both going to give our all, and we've both got a lot to give. So it's going to be a bit of an experience. Well, I'm hoping so, you know what I mean? I've got high hopes for this fight, and I hope it goes the way I think it should.
All right, well, there you have it. That's Colin Fletcher. Colin, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you for telling us. Thank you.
All right, Colin, you have a good day, okay?
Okay, buddy. Thank you. Take care.
All right, bye.